The country club's terrace overlooked the 18th hole, where my father's golf buddies were wrapping up their Saturday morning round. I'd been invited to this family brunch with the explicit understanding that I was there to meet potential connections, people who might help advance my stalled career, as my mother delicately put it. "So this is the youngest one," Richard Hartwell said, extending his hand. He was a senior partner at one of DC's most prestigious law firms. "Your father tells me you work for the government." "That's right," I confirmed, shaking his hand. "Which agency?" his wife Patricia asked, her smile polite but disinterested. "I work in the executive branch," I replied simply. "Executive branch," my father interjected quickly. "Nothing too exciting, I'm afraid. Mostly administrative work from what I understand. Emily has always been more interested in public service than actual career advancement." My older sister Jessica laughed, swirling her mimosa. She could have gone into corporate law like me, but no, she wanted to serve her country. "Very noble, very broke." "There's honor in government service," Patricia offered charitably. "Even if the pay is terrible." "What do you do exactly, Emily?" "Help process permits? Work in records." "Some boring government work," Dad explained before I could answer, his tone apologetic to his friends. "You know how it is with these federal positions. Lots of bureaucracy, not much responsibility." She's been there for 8 years now and still no real promotion to speak of. "Probably filing," Jessica added with a smirk. "Or maybe scheduling meetings for people who actually make decisions." I sipped my coffee, saying nothing. Richard leaned back in his chair. 8 years is a long time to be stuck at entry level, Emily. Have you thought about transitioning to the private sector? I'm sure with a government background, you could find something in compliance or regulatory affairs. The pay would certainly be better. "I'm comfortable where I am," I said. My mother sighed heavily. "That's Emily's problem, she's always comfortable. No ambition to climb higher. Her brother David is a lead surgeon at Johns Hopkins, Jessica here just made junior partner at her firm, and Emily, well, she's content with her government job." "Which department are you in exactly?" Patricia pressed, clearly trying to find something positive to say about my career. "I work closely with several departments," I replied. "Cross-functional collaboration." "Ah," Richard said knowingly. "Administrative coordination. Someone has to keep the bureaucracy running, I suppose." "Exactly," Dad agreed eagerly. "Emily's always been good at organization and detail work. Just not particularly ambitious about advancement." Jessica leaned toward Patricia conspiratorially. She could have clerked for a Supreme Court justice with her credentials. Yale Law, top of her class, law review. Instead, she took some entry-level government position and has been there ever since. We've tried to convince her to do something more with her life, but... She shrugged helplessly. "I'm doing exactly what I want to do," I said calmly. "But for how long?" Mom asked, her voice tinged with frustration. "You're 36, Emily. When are you going to start building real wealth? Real influence? You can't live on a GS-12 salary forever." "GS-12? Richard raised his eyebrows. "After 8 years? Emily, I don't mean to be harsh, but that's concerning. Most people are GS-14 or 15 by that point if they have any real trajectory." "Government careers move slowly," Patricia said kindly. "I'm sure Emily has good job security at least." "Job security without advancement is just another word for stagnation," my father declared. "That's what I keep telling her. Security doesn't build dynasties. Take Richard here, senior partner by 40. That's ambition. That's drive." Richard nodded modestly. "The private sector rewards merit. Government work, well, it's very egalitarian. Everyone moves at the same pace regardless of talent." "Exactly," Jessica exclaimed. "Emily has all this talent, all this education, and she's wasting it pushing papers in some windowless office in DC. It's tragic." "I have a window," I mentioned. "Oh, a window," Mom repeated sarcastically. "Well, that certainly makes up for 8 years of career stagnation." The waiter arrived with our food, eggs Benedict, smoked salmon, fresh fruit. The conversation paused briefly. "So what does a typical day look like for you?" Patricia asked, clearly still trying to be polite. "What kind of tasks do you handle?" "I review briefings, attend meetings, coordinate with various stakeholders, advise on policy matters," I said. "Policy matters," Dad scoffed gently. Emily, you're not a policymaker. You support policymakers. There's a difference. She probably means she delivers policy briefings to her superiors, Richard suggested. That's good experience actually. Shows attention to detail. If you ever want to interview at my firm, Emily, I'd be happy to put in a word. We're always looking for people with government experience to help us navigate regulations. That's very generous, I said. But I'm happy where I am. Jessica shook her head in disbelief. You keep saying that. Happy. But Emily, you could be making $300,000 a year in private practice. Instead you're making what, 70? 80? Something in that range, I said vaguely. See? That's the problem, Mom interjected. You're not even sure what you make. You're not thinking about money at all. Meanwhile, your sister is buying investment properties, your brother just bought a vacation home in the Hamptons, and you're living in that tiny apartment in Arlington. It's a nice apartment, I defended mildly. It's 700 square feet, Jessica countered. Emily, I'm saying this because I care. You're wasting your potential. You were brilliant in law school. Everyone expected great things from you. And now you're just maintaining. Not growing, not advancing, just existing in some mid-level government position that nobody's even heard of. Richard's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression brightened. Speaking of government positions, I just got confirmation. We're meeting with the Deputy Secretary of State next week about the trade agreement negotiations. Finally got through the bureaucratic red tape. Impressive, Dad said admiringly. That's the level Emily should be aspiring to reach. Deputy Secretary, cabinet-level positions. Real power. Those positions are political appointments, Patricia noted. You need connections for that level. No offense, Emily, but I doubt you've built that kind of network doing administrative work. You never know, I said. Jessica laughed. Emily, be realistic. You'd need to know senators, congresspeople, maybe even the president's inner circle to get anywhere near that level. You've spent 8 years filing papers and attending meetings. That doesn't build the kind of relationships that lead to real power. My phone vibrated in my purse. I glanced at it discreetly under the table. Secure line, White House Situation Room. I set the phone face down beside my plate. More government busy work? Dad asked, noticing. Can't even enjoy a Saturday brunch without them calling. It's the nature of government work, Richard said sympathetically. They don't respect boundaries because they know you have nowhere better to go. In private practice, clients respect your time because you're billing $500 an hour. Emily doesn't bill anything, Jessica pointed out. She just does whatever her supervisor tells her to do. That's what happens when you don't have real leverage. My phone buzzed again. Then again. Emily, please, Mom said. Turn that off or step away and deal with it. This is family time. I picked up my phone. 3 messages, all marked urgent. James Morrison, Chief of Staff. Emily, we have a situation. Ukraine intelligence intercept. Need your assessment immediately. General Patricia Collins, Joint Chiefs Advisor, we have confirmation of troop movements near the border. NSC meeting convening in 30 minutes. Your presence required. Director Sarah Zhang. Say, Emily, this can't wait. We need you in the Situation Room now. I'm sorry, I said, standing. I need to take this. On a Saturday? Patricia asked, surprised. Government emergencies don't follow business hours, I explained, already moving away from the table. I walked to the far end of the terrace, away from other diners, and dialed the secure line. This is Emily Carter, I said quietly. James Morrison's voice was tense. Emily, thank God. We've intercepted communications suggesting coordinated military movements in 3 separate regions. The President wants your analysis before we brief congressional leadership. How fast can you get to the White House? I'm in Great Falls, I said, checking my watch. 40 minutes with security clearance. We'll have a car to you in 5 minutes. Send your location. James, give me the basics now so I can start processing. Encrypted channels show unusual coordination between state actors in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. Patterns match the scenario you briefed us on 3 months ago, the one about coordinated pressure testing of NATO response times. I closed my eyes, running through the intelligence assessments I'd been monitoring. Have we confirmed satellite imagery? Being analyzed now. NGA is sending preliminary assessment to your secure device. Emily, if you're right about this coordination, it means we're looking at a deliberate test of alliance response capabilities, I finished. Not an immediate threat but a rehearsal. Give me 10 minutes to review the intercepts before the meeting. You've got it. Car is 2 minutes out. And Emily, the president specifically asked for you. Not the NSC, not state. You. I hung up and returned to the table, where my family and their friends were deep in conversation about someone's yacht purchase. All handled? Dad asked dismissively. Not quite, I said, gathering my purse. I need to leave. Leave. Mom looked offended. Emily, we're in the middle of brunch. Can't you just tell them you're busy? Unfortunately not, I replied. Jessica rolled her eyes. This is exactly what we're talking about. You have no leverage, no ability to set boundaries. They snap their fingers and you jump. That's not respect, Emily. That's exploitation. What could possibly be so urgent on a Saturday? Patricia asked. I really can't discuss it, I said. I apologize for cutting this short. Richard shook his head. Emily, take some advice from someone who's been in DC for 30 years. If you don't set boundaries, people will walk all over you. Tell them you're off duty. Make them respect your time. I appreciate the advice, I said politely. At least tell us who's calling you, Dad pressed. Your supervisor? Department head. Give us some context for why you're abandoning your family. Before I could answer, a black SUV with government plates pulled up to the country club's entrance. 2 Secret Service agents stepped out. Jessica noticed them. Who are they here for? One of the agents was walking purposefully toward the terrace, his earpiece visible, his eyes scanning until they landed on me. Miss Carter, he said, approaching our table. We're ready when you are, ma'am. The entire table went silent. Thank you, Agent Morrison, I said, standing. One moment. I turned to my family. I really do need to go. Enjoy the rest of your brunch. Wait, Richard said, his attorney instinct suddenly sharp. Secret Service? Why would they be picking you up for administrative government work? Emily, Mom's voice was uncertain now. What exactly is your position? I work in the executive branch, I repeated calmly. I really do need to go. There's a situation that requires my attention. Agent Morrison spoke into his wrist mic. Eagle's Nest, we have advisor. EA to White House, 35 minutes. Advisor. Jessica's voice was barely a whisper. I smiled apologetically at Patricia and Richard. It was lovely meeting you both. I'm sorry to cut this short. As I walked toward the SUV, I heard my father's stunned voice behind me. Did he say, advisor? And White House? I climbed into the SUV and Agent Morrison closed the door behind me. Inside, a secure tablet was already waiting with encrypted briefing materials. I immediately began reading the intelligence assessments as we pulled away from the country club. The Ukraine situation was developing exactly as I'd predicted in my classified memo 3 months ago. 7 different intelligence sources confirmed coordination between actors who had no obvious reason to communicate. It was a test. A probe to see how quickly NATO could mobilize information and response. My secure phone rang. The screen showed, POTUS, direct line. Mr. President, I answered. Emily, James says you're 40 minutes out. I need your read on this before I brief the speaker. Is this what you warned us about? Sir. This matches the coordination pattern I identified in the spring. They're testing our response time and information sharing protocols. It's not an imminent attack. It's reconnaissance for future planning. So we're not looking at military response? No, sir. We're looking at diplomatic signaling combined with enhanced monitoring. I recommend we demonstrate that we detected the coordination faster than they expected. Show them we're watching and we're sharing intelligence seamlessly across alliance partners. That's what I thought you'd say. See you in 30 minutes. The line clicked off. Meanwhile, back at the country club, I would later learn that my phone, the one I'd left on the table in my haste, had started buzzing with notifications. My sister Jessica, shocked and confused, had watched as the screen lit up with messages. Secretary of State. Emily, confirming you'll brief us after POTUS meeting? National Security Advisor. Your assessment was correct. They're testing us. Director of National Intelligence. Need your analysis for congressional briefing. Oh my God. Jessica had whispered, reading the notifications. "Mom, look at her phone." My mother had picked it up with trembling hands, seeing message after message from cabinet members, military leaders, intelligence directors. "This isn't possible," Dad had said. "Those can't be real." Richard, the attorney, had been more practical. "Those are official government numbers. I recognize several of them from cases I've worked on. Those are real." The phone had rung then, the caller ID showing Chief Justice Martinez. No one had answered it. Patricia had been scrolling on her own phone, her face growing paler. "There's an Emily Carter listed on the White House website. Deputy National Security Advisor. Confirmed by Senate 8 years ago. Former Yale Law, former clerk for Justice Roberts, former DOJ National Security Division." She'd looked up. "There's a photo. It's her." The silence at that table had been absolute. "Deputy National Security Advisor," Richard had repeated slowly. "That's not filing papers. That's one of the most powerful positions in the entire federal government." Jessica had been reading the same information, her hands shaking. "It says she advises the president directly on all national security matters. She has higher clearance than most cabinet members. She coordinates intelligence across all agencies. Her voice had broken. "She's one of the most influential people in Washington." "But she said she does administrative work," Mom had protested weakly. "She administers national security policy for the entire United States," Patricia had corrected, still reading. "Says here she was instrumental in the Middle East peace framework 2 years ago. And the cybersecurity treaty with NATO allies. And the trade negotiations with Southeast Asia. Her work is classified, but the results have reshaped U.S. foreign policy." Dad had picked up his phone with shaking hands and Googled my name. The results had painted a picture none of them had bothered to see before. Washington Post, "The most powerful person you've never heard of, inside Emily Carter's influence on U.S. security policy," he'd read aloud. Foreign Affairs Journal, "Deputy Advisor Carter's strategic vision redefines modern diplomacy." The Economist, "How one woman changed the way America thinks about global security." "We called her a file clerk," Jessica had whispered. "We told her to interview at law firms for compliance positions." Richard had been reading his own phone, his expression mortified. "She doesn't need to interview anywhere. According to this, she's been offered positions at every major think tank, law firm, and consulting group in Washington. Harvard offered her a full professorship. The Council on Foreign Relations wanted her as president. She turned them all down to stay in government service. Her salary," Mom had said faintly. "We said she makes 70 or 80,000. Deputy National Security Advisors make the executive level 2 salary," Richard had informed them. "That's $203,700 annually. Plus she likely has outside income from publishing and speaking engagements. She's probably making close to $300,000 a year, not counting the value of her security clearance and access." "And we patronized her," Jessica had said, tears starting to form. "For 8 years, we've treated her like she was failing at life." Patricia had found a video clip from a foreign policy conference. "Look at this. She's on a panel with former secretaries of state, ambassadors, and policy experts. They're all deferring to her analysis. The moderator calls her the most brilliant strategic mind of her generation." My father had watched the video, seeing me articulate complex geopolitical strategy with the kind of authority that made experienced diplomats nod in agreement. His face had crumbled. "She tried to tell us," he'd said hoarsely. "She said she worked in the executive branch, coordinating policy, advising on strategic matters. We didn't listen. We didn't ask. We assumed." The phone on the table had buzzed again. Another message, this one visible on the lock screen. "James Morrison, Chief of Staff Emily, President wants your Ukraine brief to include historical context. He trusts your judgment over anyone else's." "The President trusts her judgment over anyone else's," Mom had read aloud, her voice breaking. "The President of the United States." Back in the SUV, I was finishing my analysis of the intelligence reports when we pulled up to the White House. I was escorted directly to the Situation Room, where the National Security Council was already assembling. "Emily," General Collins greeted me with relief. "Thank God. We need your assessment before POTUS arrives." I moved to the head of the table, where analysts had displayed satellite imagery, communications intercepts, and troop movement data across multiple screens. This is a coordinated probe, I began, pointing to the timeline. 7 actors, 4 time zones, synchronized within a 90-minute window. They're not preparing an attack, they're measuring our detection and response capabilities. How do we respond? The Secretary of Defense asked. We don't, not militarily. We respond by demonstrating that we detected the coordination within 3 hours of initiation. We brief our NATO partners simultaneously, showing seamless intelligence sharing. We make it clear that whatever they learned about their own capabilities, we learned more about their coordination methods. Director Zhang nodded. Essentially, we turned their reconnaissance against them. Exactly. They wanted to learn about us. Instead, they've revealed their own coordination infrastructure. The president entered and everyone stood. He waved us down and looked directly at me. Emily, give it to me straight. Are we on the brink here? No, sir. We're being evaluated. I recommend we show them that we not only passed their test but that we've learned from it. I've prepared a diplomatic response that signals strength without escalation. Let's hear it. I spent the next 30 minutes briefing the President and the National Security Council on the strategic implications and my recommended response. By the end, everyone in the room was nodding. This is why I wanted Emily on this, the President said to the room. Nobody sees these patterns faster or more clearly. Make it happen exactly as she's outlined. The meeting concluded, and as I was gathering my materials, James Morrison approached me. Emily, the President wants you to brief congressional leadership this afternoon. Both Senate and House Intelligence Committees. Of course, I agreed. Also, we're getting press inquiries about the situation. How much can we disclose about your involvement? Nothing specific, I said immediately. Keep my name out of it. Credit the intelligence community as a whole. You always say that, James noted. You know you could be the most famous policy expert in America if you wanted to be. I don't want to be, I replied. I want to do the work effectively. Fame would complicate that. My phone rang. It was my mother. I stepped into a secure corridor and answered. Mom. Emily. Her voice was thick with tears. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? That you're one of the most important people in the government. That you advise the president. That you're not filing papers, you're making policy that affects the entire world. You never asked what I actually do, I said gently. You asked where I work and I told you. You asked about my day and I gave you accurate information. You just interpreted it through your own assumptions. We were so cruel to you. So dismissive. We thought you were wasting your potential. You thought I was wasting the potential you envisioned for me, I corrected. Corporate law, private wealth, visible success. But that was never my goal. I wanted to serve my country at the highest level possible. I'm doing exactly that. Jessica is devastated. She told you to interview for compliance positions. She compared you to her own junior associates. Jessica measures success by partnership tracks and corner offices. I measure it by impact. We have different values. Your father. Emily, he told his friends you were doing boring administrative work. He apologized for your career. He apologized for a career he didn't understand and didn't bother to learn about. That tells me about his values, not mine. There was a long pause. Can you forgive us? There's nothing to forgive, Mom. You revealed what you truly value: status, wealth, recognition. I value service, impact, and effectiveness. We're just different people. But we're family. Yes, I agreed. And I'll still come to family events. I'll still answer when you call. But I won't pretend that the last 8 years of dismissal didn't show me exactly how conditional your respect is. Emily, please. I have to go, Mom. I'm briefing congressional leadership in 2 hours and I need to prepare. I'll call you next week. I hung up and returned to my office, a large window-lined space with a view of the Washington Monument. My assistant was waiting with additional briefing materials. Ms. Carter, the Senate Intelligence Committee Chair, wants to discuss your analysis before the formal briefing. Set it up for 1 hour from now, I instructed. As I reviewed the materials, my phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Emily, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Can we talk? I typed back. I'm glad you know now. But knowing my position doesn't change who I am. I'm the same person I was this morning. The only thing that's changed is your perception. Her response came immediately. That's not fair. We would have treated you differently if we'd known. I replied, exactly. And that's the problem. I set my phone aside and focused on preparing for the congressional briefing. This was what mattered, ensuring that our nation's leadership understood the strategic implications of the morning's intelligence and could make informed decisions about our response. My family's belated recognition of my position was irrelevant to the work. Later that evening, after briefing both intelligence committees and coordinating with our NATO partners, I returned to my tiny apartment in Arlington. It was indeed 700 square feet. It was also 2 blocks from the Pentagon, had state-of-the-art security, and was exactly what I needed. I made myself dinner, pasta with vegetables, and settled in to read the latest intelligence assessments from East Asia. My phone buzzed. A text from my brother David, the Johns Hopkins surgeon. Emily, I just heard from Mom. I had no idea about your position. I'm in awe. Can we talk soon? I smiled slightly and typed back. I've been in this position for 8 years, David. I'm the same person I was yesterday. The only difference is that now you know what I actually do. His response, I feel terrible. We all do. Don't I wrote. You showed me who you are when you thought I had no power. That was valuable information. Now you're showing me who you are when you know I do. That's valuable too. I set the phone down and returned to my briefing materials. The next morning, I received an email from Richard Hartwell, my father's golf buddy. Ms. Carter, I wanted to apologize for my comments yesterday. I had no idea I was offering career advice to someone who's achieved more in government service than I ever will in private practice. If there's ever anything I can do to support your important work, please don't hesitate to reach out. Richard. I replied, Richard, thank you for the kind words. No apology necessary. Your advice was sound for someone pursuing private practice. I simply chose a different path. Regards, Emily. By Monday morning, the Ukraine situation had been resolved exactly as I'd recommended. Our diplomatic signaling had worked perfectly, we'd demonstrated awareness and coordination without escalation, and the probing actors had backed down. The president called me personally to thank me. Emily, impeccable analysis as always. You called this one perfectly. Thank you, Mr. President. Just doing my job. One of these days you're going to let me put you forward for National Security Advisor. You're already doing the job. I'm comfortable where I am, sir. Being one step removed from the spotlight lets me work more effectively. He laughed. That's what you always say. All right, keep doing what you're doing. The country's safer because of you. That afternoon my mother called again. Emily, I wanted to let you know that we're having a family dinner next month. Your father and I would very much like you to attend. We want to do better. To really listen to you. I'll be there if I can, Mom, I said. But my schedule is unpredictable. If there's a crisis, I'll need to cancel. Of course. We understand. You have such important responsibilities. I had the same responsibilities last month when you were upset that I canceled for work, I pointed out gently. The only thing that's changed is your awareness of them. Silence. That's fair, she finally said. Emily, how do we fix this? You don't fix it, Mom. You just acknowledge it. You respected me when you thought I had power. You dismissed me when you thought I didn't. That's who you are. I can accept that and still maintain a relationship with you, but I won't pretend it didn't happen. That's so harsh. It's honest, I corrected. And I've learned that honest relationships, even uncomfortable ones, are better than relationships built on false pretenses. After we hung up, I sat at my desk and looked out at the Washington Monument, thinking about perception and value. My family had spent 8 years believing I was a low-level bureaucrat because I didn't perform success in ways they recognized. They measured impact by salary figures, job titles, and visible prestige. I measured impact by prevented conflicts, successful negotiations, and strategic frameworks that kept people safe. Neither measurement was wrong, they were just different. But their treatment of me when they thought I had no power had revealed something important. Their respect was transactional, conditional on status rather than character. Now they knew my status and they were desperate to repair the relationship. But I didn't need their respect anymore. I'd never needed it. I had the president's trust, the confidence of the Joint Chiefs, the respect of intelligence directors and foreign diplomats. I had prevented wars, brokered peace, and shaped policy that affected millions of lives. My family's opinion of my success had never been relevant to my actual success. And recognizing that was its own kind of liberation. I turned back to my computer where a new intelligence brief was waiting for my analysis. There was work to do. Important work that would never make headlines, that my family would never fully understand, but that mattered more than their belated approval ever could. I was Emily Carter, Deputy National Security Advisor to the President of the United States. And I had been all along. Whether my family knew it or not.